Hi everyone, how you doing? Jonathan Lipp here from the Big Apple Film Festival. Welcome to BAFF Chats. We are very excited. We have our Women's Filmmaker Showcase coming up on January 19th and January 20th at the SVA Theater right here in New York City. And one of the films we'll be screening, one of the short films, is Resolutions, directed by Tamara Fisch, who's with us today, as well as screenwriter Erica Saleh and editor Sarah Sachs. So welcome. Resolutions will be screening at the festival on Saturday, January 20th at 6:30 p.m. So first, if I can ask Tamara if you could tell us a little about your film, Resolutions.
Sure. Well, it's actually pretty timely. It's about a New Year's Eve gathering of a couple close friends and their New Year's resolutions. And it's about, ultimately it's about a young woman, or a woman, who realizes that her life is not what she thought it was, that it has kind of run away from her a little bit, and while she wasn't looking, she lost control.
5, 6, 7. I took too many.
Oh, what?
Oh, that's not how you spell calendar.
Yes, it is.
No, it's an A at the end, not an E.
I hate this fucking game. It's not funny.
I mean, I guess this isn't the most exciting way to ring in the new year.
Oh, honey, if we had a more exciting place to be, we'd be there. You know that.
Ah, she's joking.
I know I'm joking.
To a better you.
Oh, I'm going to. Okay. Wait, what? Mix it with the tonic I have. Is that This is mine or this yours?
It's just a day.
I know.
Okay, and Erica is the writer.
Yes.
Yes.
So what sort of inspired this script?
It was originally a play that Tamara also directed, and you know, I mean, it's largely inspired by, you know, having been in my 20s once, and you know, kind of that moment of wondering if you need to, realizing you have to change course and wondering how drastically you need to change course. And you know, all my writing, I'm really interested in kind of putting women in morally precarious situations, which is what this film finds our main character in.
Nice. Okay, and for Sarah, you know, they say in many ways the film is made in the editing room. So what were some of the challenges in piecing this film together?
I think some of the challenges, like Erica just mentioned, that this was written for, you know, stage. Like, I thought that was a really interesting, like, challenge to kind of, like, wrap my mind around. Like, it's a very different thing, like the stage versus video. Like, your emotions that might play smaller on the stage play bigger when you're in, like, a close-up medium like film. So
Sure.
it was an interesting process of putting that together and, like, keeping the right tone and making sure the emotions felt equally true.
Right. And let me ask Tamara, how is directing the film different than directing the stage play? And let me ask you also, were the actors, was it the
They were
same
not
cast?
the same.
Different cast?
Different cast.
Okay, so
different
how was
cast.
that experience of directing on stage versus film?
I think there were a couple of key differences, and some of these happened in the directing on set, and some of them happened in the directing in the edit, and some of them happened when we were talking about adapting it on the page. But I think for me the biggest difference was that I think that on stage the piece centered much more around a story reveal. And because of the way the camera can give you access to the interior life of a character, I think on film we were able to really get to know the individual characters a lot more and understand Frankie's journey and the kind of impact and implications of the story reveal for her as a person trying to figure out how drastically she needs to change her life to get her stuff together. And in the edit, I mean, I think one of the things that we definitely played with and was how this is my first film, so I have a background as a theater director, and figuring out just how much information per time an image provides, and therefore how long you linger on something, and how you can easily tip too far into a very heavy tone, or and how to make sure we didn't do that too often or telegraph too many things. Which was a really exciting process and collaboration, and it was very helpful to have multiple perspectives in that process.
And Erica, did you make any changes to the script at all from stage to film?
Yeah, I did. One of the things I thought I was going to do that I ended up not doing was the play happens all in one room, and when translating it to film, we played a little with having different locations, and kind of realized that it really does just live in this space. But so the changes I made were much more kind of stripping down the dialogue and letting, really, knowing that the image was going to tell some of the story. So it was a lot of kind of paring it down.
Okay. And Sarah, did you know about this stage play or this story beforehand, or was the film your first introduction to this script, this story?
I mean, I think Tamara filled me in a little bit, verbally, but I haven't watched the play or seen any of the play adaptations or whatever. Right.
And as the editor, do you feel in a way are you sort of like a storyteller as well in that sense? Where you sort of?
I mean, I think every editor is a storyteller. You're choosing what to keep in and what to take out, and I think that definitely shapes the world that you're living in.
Right.
I think it would be hard to do. Hard to make an edit without putting some of your personal perspective about what that story is about, or who those people are who you're portraying.
Right. And Tamara, the cast, how'd you go about? You had a great cast. I mean, everyone was
brilliant
excellent.
Cast.
If you want to just name the cast members and how you went about finding them, auditioning them.
Yeah, so the cast was Nadine Malouf played Frankie, Sean Meehan played Brian, Eric Clem played Jake, and Victoria Mack played Nina, who we'll speak to later. And actually, of those 4 actors, I knew 3 of them beforehand.
Okay.
I did audition, but I auditioned from a pool of actors I knew or had been recommended to me.
Okay. So you didn't have a public listing in Backstage or one of those kind of things?
No, I reached out to people I respect and asked for recommendations, and I reached out to actors that I knew whose work I respected, and who I thought might fit. And they were all generous and willing to put themselves on tape and audition, but I was pulling from a pool of people who I already kind of knew could do the work, and it was a question of what's the best chemistry and what's the best fit for the film. And Nadine, who was the lead, was the only actress the only actor I hadn't worked with before. Okay. We had a near miss on a play of Erica's in the past, actually, where we cast her and then lost her, but we had never worked with her. It was a reading, so we'd actually not met.
Okay.
But yeah.
Wow. And Erica, did you have a say in the casting at all? Did you have anything to do with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I was in LA when Tamara was casting, but she sent me all the videos. We had a lot of long talks, and yeah.
Did you know, when you initially wrote this script, going way back to when it was a stage play, did you always have a vision of the type of characters that would?
And I really, for the stage play, to some extent, I was kind of writing with specific actors in mind who did the first production of it. But for the film, the tone of the film actually is quite different than the stage play. The stage play is much more comedic, and as Tamara said, kind of hinges on one big reveal. And I think we were interested in making this a little more of a contemplative character piece, and we aged up the characters a little and kind of found
are you
new life with it.
Are most of your experience as a playwright? Are you primarily a playwright?
Right up until we made this, most of my experience was a playwright. We made this. I was out in LA on my first TV job when we were making it, and the past 2 years have been primarily television.
Oh, okay. And Sarah, are you a film director as well, or writer, or just?
No, not at all. I love working with directors because I don't feel like my passion is on that side of it. But
okay.
But yeah.
I see. All right, and beyond resolutions, if you could just talk a little bit about some of the things that you're currently doing or have done before, maybe that you'd like to talk about. We'll start with Tamara. Some of the other projects that you've worked on.
So I was a theater director for about 15 years.
Okay.
And
Did you know you eventually wanted to get into film, or
Nope.
from way back when you wanted to be a theater person,
Yeah.
that was your goal, and then it transitioned or evolved?
I contracted it through marriage.
Okay.
I married a filmmaker and then became a producer on his first feature.
Oh, okay.
My husband's name is Thomas Woodrow, and his feature I was a co-producer on. It's called We've Forgotten More Than We Ever Knew, and it was just was released in November.
Oh,
and that was my first involvement with any kind of film project. And I worked with him on developing the script, which was not that different from working with playwrights on new plays.
Right.
And then became really involved in the edit on that, and it was really inspiring to me, and I became really excited about how I could bring what I knew about storytelling to a different medium, and this was my first attempt to explore that.
Right.
So yeah, and then I'm currently trying my hand at writing. I'm working on a screenplay.
Oh, nice.
So that's very
cool.
new to me.
Feature script or a short?
Yeah.
Nice.
A feature script
Good.
that I hope will be my next project, but it's still very, very early
Okay.
in the process.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Oh,
that's
good
where I
luck.
am.
That's great.
Yeah, thanks.
And Erica, what other projects are you currently working on?
I'm at the beginning of a bunch of stuff. I just wrapped up a few things. I was writing for a CBS show called Wisdom of the Crowd, which has 2 more episodes left to air, or one more episode left to air. And then prior to that, this fall, I was also a show I worked on called Channel Zero on the Sci-Fi Network came out, which I'm really. It's wonderful, and not enough people are seeing it, so I'm going to plug that.
Yeah.
And then and now moving forward, I am working on a couple TV pitches and trying my hand at also my first full-length screenplay.
Cool. Great. Sarah, what are you working on?
I think 90% of what I do is like mostly commercial work, so that's kind of like ever going. But I just finished up a music video with a really talented artist named Milan, which is really cool. I'm doing a short docu with Kevin Corrigan.
Corrigan,
the
okay.
band that he has.
He's great. He's been to our festival a few
Yeah, he's
times.
great.
Great
I love
actor.
him. Such a great guy.
We actually presented with him with an award some
really?
years back.
That's
At
awesome.
our festival.
Yeah, he's such a treat. And then
Yep.
a really talented comedian. I'm doing like a new short series for her, Caroline Yost.
Okay, great. Okay, well, Tamara Fisch, Erica Saleh, and Sarah Sachs, thank you all. And the film Resolutions is screening again at the Big Apple Film Festival Women's Filmmaker Showcase on Saturday, January 20th at 6:30 p.m. at the SVA Theater. So thank you all.